On today's show, since we are recording on a Friday, it is Football Friday, and I'll explain what I mean by that if there's some confusion. But we have on the show for the first time ever, we have a player interview with David Manigo. So we'll tell you all about his story, and if you are familiar with the Fan Show, then this is going to be a familiar name. We have our friend of the Fan Show, our X's and O's analyst, Sean McEvoy, joining the show today. Welcome back to the Fan Show. We are recording on a Friday, and that means it is Football Friday. Let me just explain what Football Friday is. We did this last week, had a lot of fun with it, but today we are bringing out the heavy hitters, and it is a busy Football Friday that we have going on today. But let me just explain what Football Friday is. Since we are recording here in Atlanta, Georgia, since this is the Southeast, football is talked about all year round. If you're a big college guy or a big NFL guy, you're always talking about your team, and especially in the paper and in sports talk radio. Even I read an article about the NFL and the AJC this past week and said, I know that a lot of people are going to have that football itch going on. Well, here at the Fan Show, we have the football itch. We have the relief for the football itch because today, like I said, we're rolling out our content, and Fridays are going to be the days where we roll out all of our football content, give it to you all at once, get you ready for the weekend, get you pumped up, and giving you hope that even though there is no games in sight, that we are eventually going to have football again. And but right now we have the Combine coming up in a few weeks. I know a lot of people are going to be excited for that. So that's one thing you can look forward to. Spring practice is going to be starting soon. So spring games are definitely going to be around the corner. So those are things to get excited about. But like I said before, football is an all-year-round thing. Yes, the season happens in the fall, and you think it's a fall thing. No, actually, it's an all-year-round thing that happens because football players know you have to be on all year round to be ready for football season. It's just the big test comes in the fall. So with that being said, like I said, it's a busy day here on the Fan Show. Got a lot of great content to get to. I'm Alex Berger, and before we bring on Sean to the show, like I said, we have David Manigo, who's a high school wide receiver that has recently committed to FAMU. So if you're a FAMU alumni, you definitely want to check out this podcast. You definitely want to hear this interview. This is a great young man. He actually doesn't just play football. He actually plays the three main sports: football, baseball, and basketball. And he started playing football his 9th grade year, and he already has a full scholarship to FAMU. So definitely, if you are a part of the Towers High School community, we definitely want to welcome you to the Fan Show. And appreciate you guys checking us out, especially if you checked us out for the first time. We'd love having you guys, and appreciate the Towers community, Towers High School football community, or Towers High School, just checking out this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy the interview with David Manigo, one of your rising stars, and like I said, just a great young man. Here is what you've been waiting for, the interview with David Manigo.
Well, we just want to welcome to the show David Manigo from Towers High School, and he is recently committed to Famu. So, David, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Glad you could join us today. If you could just tell us about the recruiting process, and how did that all go, and what schools were looking at you through that process?
Well, recruiting-wise, I didn't have anybody. It was schools reaching out to me, like Georgia Tech, and like they would just come up to the school, get a view of me, see how I look, and they watch my film. But the only offer I got was from Florida A&M, so that was really like the main school that was interacting with me and staying in contact. So I felt like that was home. And then once I took the official visit, and they treated me like family, so I was like, this is where I'm going to go.
Well, you just kind of touched on my next question, but yeah, what are some of the other reasons why you liked FAMU so much, especially when you took that visit?
Well, when I first got there, the coaches were very nice, and the players that I met and everything, they told me about their experience and how everything was practice-wise, even outside of school, like how you can build bonds with other people and everything like that. So it was basically just a community of family.
Right, and I looked at the new signing class going into FAMU, and it seems like there's obviously a lot of kids from Florida that are a lot of local kids, and a lot of kids from that area that have signed with FAMU. But you also got some kids from Louisiana, and I was a little surprised. But you also had 3 other Georgia kids, including yourself, going there. How do you feel about that, knowing that it's like you're gonna be in a going into a team that, especially during your grade period too, that you have a couple of guys from your state, which you probably wouldn't think, since it's so down in South Florida, that really wouldn't happen. But does that make you feel a little bit more comfortable to knowing that you're going to be competing with guys from your same state?
Yeah, well, even if they weren't from my state, I'm a very interactive person. So the people that got recruited from Florida and Louisiana, I'll just interact with them, get to know them better, so I can build a bond with them, and then I'll be able to play well with them on the field.
Gotcha. When you get on campus, how do you want to contribute to the team?
Well, contributing, I will make sure I work hard every day. So, because last year the FAMU didn't really have a good football team, but this year with the impact of the players from 2018, I feel like we're going to make a great impact and have a winning season and win a championship. All we got to do is just work hard, compete hard, and play hard.
Do you feel like you're going to have the chance to see to get playing time right away?
Yes, I do. The coaches really love me, but that doesn't mean anything. But with me, I'm going to make sure as soon as I get there, I'm going to work hard every day, 25/8, making sure I get my schoolwork done and making sure that I work on the field and off the field.
Great. That's a good way to be. So just going into your position group, how many upperclassmen are in there? And since you said that you think that you can see the field right away, do you feel like that it's realistic to compete for a starting job right away?
Yes, it is. Just because they're in a higher grade or anything, that really doesn't mean anything. If you can show that you have the talent and you're able to compete with them, then I pretty feel like that I'm going to have playing time right away. All I have to do is, like I said, just work hard and make sure that I'm putting in the effort every day.
Mm-hmm. Now, I looked at your game film from this past year, and what I saw was a guy that had solid route running skills, and it seemed like you put your body in position to where the ball is going to be. What do you credit that to, and how did you become such a solid route runner?
Well, I'm not even going to lie. In ninth grade, I wasn't all that because ninth grade in high school, that was my first year playing football. So basically, if I wanted to be the best. In my head, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be better than the person that is ahead of me. So in ninth grade, all I did was hit the weight room hard because I was very skinny. So I made sure I hit the weight room hard, ate protein bars, protein shakes. I made sure that I trained every day with my coach, my wide receiver coach. I made sure I trained with him, did ladder drills and everything, and basically just to be in good ball position. I basically just I made sure I ran routes every day that could help me in the game, and then made sure my catching was on point.
Really interesting. Do you have like a coach that you that coaches you with just fundamentals outside of your high school, like a personal wide receiver trainer?
No, I don't. But it is a coach that I can go to get help from him anytime, even outside of high school, that I can just call up anytime and then just get some work in with him.
Well, that's good. That's good that you have someone like that can work you out like that, because, yeah, that's definitely needed once you get to the next level.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say to the, I guess you could call them the haters out there that when they watch your tape, because one of the things that stood out to me was that it's like you were a real deep threat, but at the same time, once you got the ball in space, it seemed like you had trouble shaking people and just having breakaway speed. So what would you say to that?
I would just say, for the haters and everything, I would just say thank you, because that's just making me better, to be honest. So that's just making me better, because I'm always going to be a humble person. I'm going to stay humble. So for all the haters and everything, all I say is that's just going to make me better, and that's just going to make me prove them wrong.
Well, there you go. There you go. Speaking to all the haters. Now, you play all the major sports. You play football, basketball, and baseball. And you just told me before you came on that your basketball team right now is in the Sweet 16. So playing all those sports, how does that help you become a better wide receiver?
Well, that's a good question. I play these sports to help me with football. Basketball, because basketball, there's a lot of running. So
right.
Basketball helps me with stamina on the football field. So when I play basketball, running up and down the court, that helps me with stamina, my ability to jump, because there's a lot of jumping involved in basketball. So
right.
That helps me. Baseball, that's really good hand-eye coordination. So with baseball, having a good hand-eye coordination can help me be able to catch the football on the football field. So that's all these sports combined just help me out with football.
That's interesting that your main sport is football, but it's like you're in a place where it seems like you're this world-class athlete that you can just pick up basketball, just pick up baseball, and that can help you become better being a wide receiver. I
played baseball. Really, baseball was my main sport. I've been playing that ever since I was 3 years old. And then it was like I wasn't able to play football back then because of my parents. They didn't want me to play anything. So they was like, well, once you go to high school, like your other uncles did, once you get to high school, you can start playing football. So ninth grade, was my first year actually playing football, like actually knowing how to play and everything like that. I mean, I played street football, but not organized football. So ninth grade was really my first year learning how to play. And then once I already knew I could catch, so I already knew wide receiver was going to be my main position. So I just made sure I worked hard so I can be able to play that position and do very well at it.
Yeah, wow, that's some interesting stuff. So your parents didn't want you to play football at first because of the contact, but playing basketball, playing youth baseball, do you feel like that really helps you just like turn it on when you started playing football your ninth grade year?
Yes, I actually did, because basketball, it's a lot of physical contact without equipment. So
right.
Basketball-wise, that helped me, like, really toughen up my mentality and everything and how I will perform on the football field. And baseball, it's not really too much contact, but then again, you have, like, certain situations where it is contact. So that's why really these sports just help me stay active and be able to exercise daily and have the right stamina to be able to play football.
Mm-hmm. Now, why did you choose football to be your main sport? Because obviously, up to this point, you could have just kind of had the attitude of, well, whatever sport kind of works in my favor, or pretty much to the highest bidder. If say like the University of Georgia was recruiting you for baseball, or Georgia Tech was recruiting you for basketball, like you could have waited to the highest bidder. Why did you want to stick with football?
Well, I want to stick to football because, to be honest, it's fun. Like the adrenaline rush and just looking good on the field, it's really just fun to me. So I don't really watch football on TV or like any sports on TV. I just play it, but something about like watching like different football highlights, it's fun to me. And to be able to do it on the field, like from catching over people to juking people, spinning from people, everything like that, it's just fun. And it's also funny at the same time. So it's just really something it's something I like to do. So that's why I wanted to pursue football.
Would you say it's a kind of a love of the game too?
Yeah, it is a love of the game. Really, football is a love of the game. It's a passion of mine, but I say baseball is also a passion too. But it's just basically the love of the game, being able to play the game and be able to perform well is just what I like the most.
When did you fall in love with football?
I fell in love with it, I say, my junior year. My junior year in high school, I actually because that's when I knew I'm about to go to college. Well, I knew that since ninth grade, but for football, because in ninth and 10th grade, I was really just I'm going to go to college for baseball because this is my sport. But in 11th grade, it was I'm actually doing well and I'm actually performing as a good athlete, so I can make it somewhere for football. So 11th grade was just oh yeah, this is what I'm gonna do to go to college. I'm gonna play football.
Well, then I have to ask you this: is it a rush when you can beat the quarterback and either do a post in the end zone or just run a perfect route and catch a ball in the end zone? Because I saw with your highlights that it's that was something that you were the go-to guy when they were throwing deep balls to the end zone, or they were or you guys were in the red zone, and you were the main target. You were the go-to guy to get that touchdown pass in the end zone. Is that a rush doing that, trying to catch a ball in the end zone for a touchdown?
Yeah, it is. It's a big rush, to be honest. To know that the quarterback can trust me in one-on-one coverage, 1 and 2 coverage, it doesn't matter. To know that he can just throw it up there and trust me to go get it, that's really just it's a rush right then, because once I catch the ball over the people, I'm I'm about to go ahead and score. So it's a huge rush for me, to be honest.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, cool. Now, obviously, one of the things that you were involved in outside of athletics was ROTC at one time. Because ROTC, I know, gives you a lot of life skills and teaches you a lot of life skills. Do you feel like being involved in ROTC helped you become a better leader?
Yes, it does. That is, yes. Being an ROTC really helps me be able to interact with people, see their understanding, see what they have going on in their life, and then just be able to help them out with things. If I can be able to help them out with things, that can prove that I can be a good leader, and not even just to help, but help and solve their problems or anything like that. ROTC, it helped me out a lot. It helped me be able to be more interactive with the community, I could say that, and just help my peers out, even people I didn't know, to be able to just help them out and loan a helping hand.
Good stuff. I guess just kind of looking into the future here, 2 years from now, what do you want to have accomplished so far in your college career?
I could say, what I want to accomplish my freshman year in college, to be the number one freshman wide receiver in the nation. And even 2 years, I want to be the number one wide receiver in the nation. So if I set that high, it sounds like a very high standard, but if I set that very high standard and I work hard and grind, I can be able to achieve it. So that's what I do. I set very high standards for myself so I can work hard, so I can be able to achieve that goal. And if I achieve that goal, I can feel proud about myself. And I know that what I did just helped me out a lot.
Wow, that's a really high goal to achieve, and I wish you the best of luck trying to get there. But when do you officially leave and get started with football workouts at FAMU?
Well, football workouts. I officially leave in July, but during baseball season, around March, April, I work out on my own. Like, I'll go while I'm in school still. I'll work out, do like certain training drills that can be able to help me out. So when I get to the college, I can already have that done. I'll already be able to do it and everything like that.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, David, for being on the show today. We wish you the best of luck, and we wish you a good career there at FAMU, and we look forward to seeing here at Fan's Favorite Fan what your collegiate career looks like, and if it looks like you might be inching one step closer to having a professional career in football. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
I'm telling you guys, especially being in this industry, and I've been around, before I started doing this, I was covering high school football, so I was around a lot of high school athletes, and I'm telling you, you're not going to meet a nicer guy than David. Just great stuff that he gave us. It was interesting that catching a touchdown pass is a little bit of a high. I think that's kind of funny, but yeah, there's some truth to that. So definitely looking forward to seeing what how David's career pans out, especially at FAMU, and looking to hear big things from him, and hopefully we can say, yeah, we knew him way back when. But right now, like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to bring on one of our football analysts, Sean McEvoy, and me and Sean have a really cool discussion just about a lot of the transition right now that a lot of these college quarterbacks are going into, transitioning over into the NFL. We have an interesting discussion, especially about Lamar Jackson. So if you're interested to see how Lamar Jackson's NFL career is going to play out. I think we give you a little bit of a window in that, but the audio is pretty good. It's just I caught Sean going to one thing to another, so if you feel like the audio is a little bit sketchy, that's just the way that we kind of caught each other. That we were both. He was he was coming back from a training session, so he's also going to be in.
Well, since it is Football Friday, and we just want to welcome my personal favorite quarterback trainer, Sean McEvoy, to the show. And Sean's about to be doing some really interesting things. He's going out to Denver this weekend, and this is actually recorded on a Thursday because he's gonna be on a flight tomorrow morning. So, Sean, how are you doing today, man?
Alex, doing great, man. So, Football Friday, one day early, huh, man? But I'm happy for it, man. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Oh, no problem. You're one of the reasons why I thought of this idea of having Football Fridays, because you always give good insight, and it's always been on Friday when we've done it. So appreciate you being on the show today.
Of course, man. My pleasure.
Let me just ask you first before we begin, what's the thing that you're going out to Denver for? I know you've mentioned to me a couple of times, but I know it's for quarterback training.
Yeah, exactly right. So I work with a company called National Football Academies, NFA. So we do quarterback and wide receiver camps all over the country. So this weekend we're doing our 3-day off-season development camp in Denver, or we'll be in Colorado Springs area. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be awesome.
Well, cool, Sam.
Yeah.
Now, you're doing it in Colorado Springs. Are you doing it at the Air Force Academy?
No. So we normally use either high school facilities or if there's indoor facilities in that area. So I don't remember the name of the high school we're going to be at this weekend, but like I said, always a good time to be around. It's a full 3-day, really working hard on the mechanics and kind of kicking off, because we're just in February still, kicking off kind of the off-season training for a lot of these middle school and high school athletes.
Gotcha. Well, sounds like a good time. I know Colorado Springs is a nice place. I've been there myself before. But one of the things I want to ask you about, because I know we kind of did a follow-up on the Super Bowl, but one of the things I am curious about, because you're starting to see a lot of offenses do unconventional things. Obviously, it used to be just the spread formations were unconventional themselves, but you're seeing it at all levels, especially in college, in the NBA. So in the NFL, excuse me. So I just want to know, because of Nick Foles catching that pass in the end zone in the Super Bowl, and obviously that's going to get the most exposure. When you do your kind of round robin quarterback training, like I see that you do on social media, are guys willing to catch the ball more now that they saw Nick Foles doing it, because offenses want to go to more of a little trickeration type things on certain package plays?
It's so funny. I think willingness to do it is always there, right? Because you think about it, these guys, they're just kids, right? They're just athletes, no matter what age they're at. So they're not opposed to just, like any of us would be, playing backyard football with our friends and, wanting to go out and catch a ball for a touchdown. That's a thrill no matter what position you play. It's certainly not something anybody's training, right? It's not like you're spending, a half hour a week having your quarterbacks do receiver drills just in case. But when you're, lucky enough to have a decent enough athlete, and obviously, like you saw with Nick Foles, it doesn't take a tremendous athlete to do it. But you work the play a few times in practice, and obviously the Patriots had tried to do the same thing with Tom Brady, and it didn't quite work out the way they planned. Right. So, I think when you just the way that the position has evolved over the last, 5-10 years, it's become a more and more athletic position than I think it's ever been before. And the old Peyton Mannings, and they're starting to be less and less and fewer between, and you're seeing a lot of that dual threat athletic guys that can make explosive plays if things break down in the pocket. And along with that, you also get a higher caliber athlete at that position, and I think you'll see more and more of that kind of stuff moving forward.
Yeah, just kind of curious, especially seeing the Super Bowl, if more guys that you were noticing during your training would be willing to go out and catch passes, because I'm assuming with you guys' training that someone has to catch the ball.
Well, so that's the other thing, too, is the nature of what a normal quarterback group session training is. Yeah, it's a bunch of quarterbacks obviously working on their fundamentals, but catching for each other, too, right? So I'm not sure there's anybody who catches more passes a year than a quarterback, because of all the training they're doing from a youth, high school, college level, all the private training sessions, all the small group stuff. You try to incorporate receivers into that when you can, so you're getting running routes, you're building that relationship. But, in my experience, a lot of the times it's quarterbacks, working through rotations, catching for each other, and, whether it was planned or not, start to develop pretty good skill set there.
Interesting. Is that one of the reasons, too, when you have really athletic quarterbacks? And obviously, in football, you're climbing a pyramid, and there's only limited guys that can be that guy. But is that why you see a lot of times people like Pryor with the Raiders, who was a guy who was a quarterback at Ohio State, and now he's playing wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you're talking about exceptional athletes. Like, you think about what it takes, to be one of the, hundreds of thousands of high school athletes who then gets to play at college and then gets to be in the NFL. You're talking about, 1/10 of 1% who makes it to that point of where they can be a quarterback at the highest level. But so you're already in this exceptional athlete mold. It's not surprising that a few of those guys, those skills translate to other positions. Like Terrell Pryor is a great example. You think of, a few like Nick Marshall, right? He was a breakout season quarterback at Auburn and went and played DB in the league, right? He was defensive back, he was a cornerback. So you see a lot of those guys translate because they're just phenomenal athletes. But like you said, only one guy gets to play quarterback, so you got to be one of the, the 32 teams, 32 guys to play quarterback in the NFL, or else, you're either a backup or you might as well find another position to get on the field.
Mm-hmm. Now, I just want to talk to you just about just offenses in general, because it seems like that the spread was the thing back in the day. Now you're coming to more conventional offenses that are running somewhat conventional plays, but it's like they'll have those wild card plays like an RPO. But like we were talking about with the Nick Foles, with the Nick Foles play where he caught the ball in the end zone, it seems like you're seeing more and more of that type of stuff. Either you're throwing to like one of the guys is throwing to a quarterback, or just in college. Like this is the year, like this past year in college, I've just seen so many flea flicker plays. Like I think this is like this year in college to me is been the most time that I can ever remember seeing so many flea flicker plays. Where do you think that offensive development is going with all this type of trickery?
No, I think it's always, it's always going to be offense versus defense, and everybody's trying to outdo the other ones, and, maybe the offense gets an edge, and then the defense catches up, so then the offense has got to do something different to gain the advantage again, right? And so that's what you see all these variations and these, nuances each year of the way the, offensive football is evolving, and it's because once the defense kind of figures out what you're doing, well, you better do catch them off guard. So, that's why teams went from power run to more of a passing offense, and then it became less, tight end and two backs and went to more of a spread, and, you see options and RPOs, once again, just trying to one-up whatever the defense has figured out how to stop, and now you're seeing more of, trick plays and flea flickers and double reverse passes, and like you said, wide receivers and running backs throwing the football to, back to quarterbacks, whatever the case may be, because it's that difficult now to out-scheme what the defense is doing.
Just as a quarterback, does that make your system more complicated, or is it just regular installment?
Yeah, no, I think it makes it more fun, right? I think at the end of the day, that's not you're not relying on that, right? Like, you're not going into the game thinking, well, hopefully these 3 trick plays work or we don't have a shot. It's just kind of something you always have in your back pocket, right? I mean, I think there's been some great, obviously all the stuff NFL Films does. One of the cool things about that, the Philly special is what they call it there in Philadelphia, and it was ran obviously by Clemson and some other teams prior to that, but it wasn't like Doug Peterson's go-to play call, right? You've seen by now how Nick Foles kind of suggested it, and, because they had practiced it a few times, and maybe it was a play they felt confident in, and Peterson gave it the go-ahead, and ended up being the play of the game. But certainly it wasn't a strategy to use that play in a key situation. It's just one of those things, hey, we practiced it, and it's good to have in your back pocket, and, every now and then when that situation arises, to be able to execute something that the defense certainly couldn't have been prepared for, is a nice deal.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, offline, we're kind of having a discussion and talking about the draft coming up, and you're going to have some great opportunities, but we're not going to spoil that or anything like that. But I just want to ask you, from a player that's really not on the radar, but he's not in the top 4 of the draft, but Lamar Jackson. Do you feel like Lamar Jackson could be an NFL quarterback, or is he, like we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, is he one of those guys that it looks like he would be better off being a cornerback or a wide receiver?
So that's the fun. The criticism that he's gotten frustrates me to no end, right? Mm-hmm. He probably fits the bill as a guy who could be successful at other positions, but, it's not mutually exclusive. That doesn't mean he can't be phenomenal at the position he plays, at the quarterback position. I think people that are writing him off as a quarterback, I just don't understand that at all. All he's been is just been an incredibly dynamic player. He's shown the ability to make plays and throw the ball well from the pocket, and then obviously has this incredible escapability and, dual threat ability to make plays with his feet. But, unfortunately, the way the NFL has been, the way ownerships have been of different teams when they look at draft prospects, teams just haven't been comfortable drafting that type of player at that position. So, but if you're asking me, I can't imagine not wanting a guy like Lamar Jackson to be the quarterback of my team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just ask you this then. Obviously in college, because you don't have the linebacking core is different between college and the NFL, obviously. And a lot of the running plays that you're going to run in college are going to be straight up the middle. But I know if you do that in the NFL, you can get your clock cleaned. So if you have a quarterback like that has that dynamic, are you concerned though about the hits that the guy is taking, especially if he goes over the middle? I
think it depends on who the player is, right?
everybody gets spoiled because I saw RG3, right? He's the perfect example of a guy
Right.
who didn't understand the difference that was going to happen and didn't really have the mindset to get down and get out of bounds and not take big hits, and obviously got injury prone and really ruined his career. But, you know, I'd argue he wasn't the dynamic player that Lamar Jackson was, or Michael Vick was, or, you know, Randall Cunningham was, right? All these guys that succeeded with that ability. You know, I'd ask you to, like, go back and watch film the last 3 years of Louisville. Show me the hard hits that Lamar Jackson has been taking, right? And I get your point that everything speeds up at the next level, but, you know, I think when you're that special kind of athlete, you just don't take those same kind of shocks. You know, you're smarter about your body, you're more elusive, and it's hard even at the next level for those NFL defenses to really square you up. So I think that gets overblown and overrated a little bit. I think he's going to need to understand how to be a little bit more protective and understand that if a team's investing in him in a top draft pick, that they need him to be healthy for the long haul. But, you know, I just wouldn't, I don't know that my default is believing that he won't be able to do it.
Now, let me ask you this. Is that a concern at all among coaches when you have an athletic quarterback like that is going to take hits? Is durability a concern with taking hits on his body, or just, is that a concern at all?
I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I really, it's not one like for me, you know, so I'm not an owner of an NFL team, but it's not something that even factors in for me. I think at the end of the day, you got to take guys who can make plays, and, you know, anybody can get hurt, right? So, you know, we've seen that across college football and the NFL. It's not like only the dual threat guys are getting hurt. Mm-hmm. You know, there were 5, 6 big time NFL names this year that missed sufficient time. And it's not because they were running quarterbacks. So I think you have to take that with what it is. There's a certain amount of risk playing that position, but to rule somebody out on the off chance that you think maybe they're at a higher risk, I think is a little bit silly. You know, and specifically speaking for Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's been healthy. You know, it's not like he's a guy that every year at Louisville was missing 3 or 4 games because, you know, he was reckless with his body and was getting injured. You know, he's been dependable. He's been consistent. He stayed healthy, playing his style of football. Some of the conversation where, you know, he's being ruled out immediately as even one of the quarterback prospects just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if you want to argue that you like Baker Mayfield more than you like Lamar Jackson, or, you know, you're a Josh Allen fan, then okay. You know, you can those top 4 or 5 guys you can list any way you want, but to just write them off as he can't play quarterback in the NFL is just silly.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this then. A lot of GMs and a lot of people that deal player personnel, it seems like they get caught up in the variables, how much the guy weighs, how tall he is. Do you feel like that should be concerning, that should be a point of emphasis when you're playing football at that level, or is it one of those things, if you can play, you can play?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is that. I don't think anyone wants to be wrong, right? Or more that nobody wants to take a risk and then be wrong. So let's take like Jamarcus Russell for an example, right? Obviously a guy who didn't pan out, but he was 6'4" and 240 and could throw the ball 70 yards. So there's no risk there. So as much as like Oakland is getting, you know, Jamarcus Russell didn't pan out, that always turns out to be more of like a slight on Jamarcus Russell. And no one's really going out and blaming the Raiders for drafting him, right? Because he fit the prototype of what should have been successful. Whereas if you take the guy who's 6'1", and he doesn't pan out, I think the criticism is a lot more likely to go to ownership. oh, they should have known. He doesn't fit the bill of what we normally look for. And so, unfortunately, throughout the years, there's been this standard, prototypical guy who succeeds in the NFL. And if you don't fit that bill, it's very hard for you to be kind of considered at that position. Now, there's obviously the outliers, right? There's the Drew Brees and the Russell Wilsons that have gone against that, methodology, if you will. But that's two guys, out of the entire league. So if you're an owner, and especially an owner who's been there for 30 years and, is kind of set in the way they look at things and is trying to just keep everybody, in his corner. And if you're a coach that, is involved in the draft process heavily, you just want to make sure you keep your job for another 3 or 4 years. I think people are very unwilling to kind of make the leap on a guy who doesn't fit that standard.
Gotcha. Well, I just want to ask you to the needs in the first round, according to CBS.com, the teams that have quarterback needs are the let me just make a quick statement too. When I researched this stuff, this was shotgun research. So for your listeners out there, I haven't dug deep into the draft yet. But the quarterback needs that are out there are the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, the Cleveland.
You got NBA on your mind tonight, man.
I'm watching NBA games, so that's what's throwing me off. And I'm watching the Cavs and Washington games.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm trying to be a good podcast host and trying to be trying to be all over the place, but we're focusing on football. But yeah, you have the Cleveland Browns, the Denver Broncos, the Miami Dolphins, Arizona Cardinals, and Buffalo Bills. Which organization would probably be the best organization to get drafted to, in your opinion?
Yeah, so isn't that's the biggest question, right? It's the hardest piece of it because, unfortunately, the higher you get drafted, all that means is that the team that picked you probably wasn't very good, right? And you look at a team like Cleveland, it means they haven't been good for years and years and years. So, what's benefited a guy like Deshaun Watson or, even like, some of the quarterbacks taken kind of mid to late first round, is that you go into a better program, a better system when you first get there. So that's the thing. Like, obviously Cleveland sitting on deck there still haven't figured out the quarterback position. So is that because they've drafted incorrectly the last 3 or 4 years? I guess maybe. But, it's also that they're so far away that it's going to be hard for any quarterback to be successful in that system, right? So I think if you're a quarterback getting drafted, you're hoping for a team that's got, some pieces in place. Maybe because of injuries, that's what caused them to not be, to be drafting earlier than they normally would be. But it's interesting. I think it's the hardest thing to predict is where do you want to go? I think you've seen through the years guys be so successful being the guy who gets drafted later in the second round, right? And it just works out that by the time they're ready to go, or it works more in their favor. But I'm certain if you're one of the top draft picks, I'm sure you don't feel like you wanting to go Cleveland right off the bat. Obviously, San Francisco, Chicago, they're locked in now with quarterbacks there in the top couple of picks. But it'll be interesting to see what Jacksonville decides to do if they feel like Bortles is good enough for what they're looking for. The Titans are going to be comfortable with where they're at right now, and then you get down to some teams that are maybe looking for some long-term answers in New York Jets and the Chargers now, even because you don't know what Rivers is going to be doing. So you look at those top 10 picks, obviously Cincinnati and Buffalo are always some question marks there. I don't know. I don't know that any of those teams drafting quarterbacks in the top 10 jump out at you like, man, if I go there, we're going to be fine.
Right.
You know, I think there's such an uphill battle there. You know, in any of those top 10 picks that, you know, I honestly, I think if you're one, and this might be something that ends up working in Lamar Jackson's favor, right? Or you look like a guy like Kyle Lauletta, you know, that had the big day at the Senior Bowl. You know, those are the guys that end up dropping to late first round, early second round, and all of a sudden they end up on a good team with a lot of good pieces, and maybe they're going to be a backup for a year or two. And those are the guys that normally end up developing into something pretty special in the next couple of years.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Maybe this might be a factor, maybe not, but getting drafted into a team that has a pretty decent offensive line. How do you think guys are is that a concern? Is it not a concern, or is it just whatever?
No, I mean, I think
they can play right away.
Yeah, you know, I think we've talked about this on a prior podcast, but you know, if you're a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, the less you have to do on your own, especially early on your first year or two, you know, obviously the better situation that is. So, you know, teams that have a good offensive line and have a great running game, and now it limits kind of, you know, how much you have to kind of, you know, win the game yourself or put everybody on your shoulders. That certainly adds to your development. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks, you know, be successful in that mode. You know, I don't know that any quarterback, as much as we talked about how well developed these guys are coming out of high school and then that much more coming out of college, I don't think anybody's ready to roll into the NFL as a true rookie and kind of carry a team on their shoulders, right? So, I think without a doubt, if you can fall into a situation that has a really good established offensive line and even more important in my mind, a great running game, that makes a big deal.
Well, let me ask you this this isn't about NFL stuff anymore, but speaking of professional careers, Tim Tebow right now is trying to become a baseball player, and I don't blame him for doing that, but I just want to know from you, and I know baseball isn't your forte, but what are some of the adjustments that you have to make and to play at that level, or what's sort of the training that you have to go through to make that transition to get back to hitting balls, and I'm assuming catching balls, because I don't think he's going out to be a pitcher per se, but it seems like he's trying to make an impact on the offensive side of the ball at the plate.
Talking about like what that skill transition is like? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got to remember, it's not like he just decided to start, you know, it's not like a Michael Jordan story here, right? Like, he was a phenomenal baseball player, you know, in high school and into college. You know, so Tim Tebow was, and a lot of these NFL quarterbacks seem to be that are quarterback/baseball guys. You know, Russell Wilson, I think, is going to do spring training this year. You know, a lot of these guys have always had options to play either sport. You know, look at a guy like Justin Fields going to Georgia next year. Yeah, he would have had options to play college baseball if he had wanted to go that route. So, you know, these guys are phenomenal in that sport. Other ways have options to maybe go into the draft in Major League Baseball, but choose football instead. And then, you know, somewhere along the line, if that first passing, if that first dream doesn't work out, it's nice to have that other option. So it's not like he's just picking up the sport for the first time.
Right.
But it is interesting in that he's been away from it, you know, from a serious competitive standpoint for quite some time. But that's why, you know, he's a project player. That's why he spent all last year in the minor leagues, and now hopefully they think, get another shot at spring training and maybe can play his way onto the big league roster and try and get back into the swing, over the last couple of years, getting back into the sport. But obviously these guys have strong arms. They understand how to use their body well. Like we said before, with the difference between playing quarterback or wide receiver or DB, if you're just a great athlete, then these skills transition across multiple sports. So it's not super surprising that you have a few of these players, like the Deion Sanders and the Bo Jacksons of the world that can really exceed at multiple sports. But it's a fun story to watch, right? It's certainly one to keep in touch with. And, obviously we've talked before about Tim Tebow as a person and what he seems to be. He's a guy it's hard not to root for.
Well, let me just ask you this. With the type of skills that you have to be to especially be an elite quarterback that Tebow was at that level, like I say, because usually when you translate baseball to football and you think quarterback, you think automatically, well, he'll just be a pitcher. Well, it doesn't seem like that's going that way. So I just want to know, like, when you're at bat, because you have to throw a ball down the field with accuracy, does that help you pick out pitches, or does that just help with the arm strength that you can swing that bat pretty powerfully?
So it's really more, you're on the right track. It's really more with like the core power, right? Okay. So as we start to break down the throwing mechanics of a quarterback, so much of the power generation comes from being really stable through his core, right? And keeping a nice tight base and being able to fire the hips through quickly. So when a quarterback throws the football, he's going to take a nice quick short drive step, but it's really all about firing the hips, creating tension in the core, and what we refer to as like a sudden start, sudden stop movement to generate quick, efficient power. But what that is, it's the same power that a batter in baseball will utilize. Think about a baseball player swinging the bat. They're just quickly driving the back hip through, and then obviously stopping the hips because they don't rotate, they don't finish all the way through with the back foot, similar to a golf swing. So all those three sports, with throwing a football and batting and playing golf, it's very similar in the rotational power that's needed to be explosive. So that's really where it translates the most. It's funny, while there's similarities in throwing anything, a javelin, a football, a baseball, when you talk about a quarterback's throwing mechanics, it's certainly a lot closer to batting in baseball than it is to pitching.
Interesting. I would have never thought that. And like you said, with those motions, all of those motions have follow through. Like, you have to follow through to be successful.
Yeah, it's interesting in that so a baseball, if you're throwing a baseball, if you're pitching off a mound, it's a lot more of a linear throwing motion, right? You're taking a long stride, you're really pulling your arm back, and you're kind of falling forward off the mound, right? You watch pitchers use that height leverage to their advantage. But in throwing a football, it's just like, hitting a baseball, it's about quick rotation. So it's a lot less linear movement, and it's about how quickly can I fire my hips through. Like I said, similar to the golf swing as well. So, yeah, it is interesting, as we talk a lot about how to make our quarterbacks better in their development and what it takes to generate really good, consistent, efficient power, you find yourself actually looking at the way baseball players and golfers generate that power as well.
Interesting. You learn something new every day. That's what my grandfather said. So
there you go.
Definitely learned something new today. But thank you, Sean, for coming on the show. Where's the best place that we can get in contact with you on social media?
Yeah, really anywhere. So I'm at QB Coach McEvoy. QB Coach McEvoy. That's, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. So all those, social media avenues are the same name. I'm easy to find. But yeah, if you want to tag along, and I'll be posting stuff from Denver this weekend and from Charlotte and Nashville and Miami in weeks coming up. So if you want to follow along and see what we're being up to and what we're doing with the quarterbacks we're working with, or if you have a question or, need some help with anything, definitely reach out on any of those platforms at QB Coach McEvoy.
Well, thanks, Sean, for coming on the show today.
You got it, dude. Football Friday, man.
Yeah, Football
Love it.
Friday.
Always great stuff that Sean brings to the show. He always gives you a different perspective, and there's always things I think that I know about quarterbacks, and I bring Sean on. He just kind of humbles me a little bit, and like I said, you learn something new, especially with the throwing motion. I didn't know that translated over to a bat swing and a golf swing, but real interesting stuff by Sean. Now, I just want to bring up something that I heard on Sports Talk Radio on 680 The Fan. But before that, because it is about Georgia Tech, and speaking of Georgia Tech campus is located near Midtown off of North Avenue, and I'm actually right now recording this near North Avenue, just a block up from the Fox Theater at Spaces Midtown. So just to give a quick shout out to Spaces, appreciate them letting me use their office space and recording booths that they have. Technically, this is for phone calls, but still is for recording. But yeah, definitely appreciate Steve just hooking me up. So if you're interested in Spaces, this is free advertisement. I'll just put it out this way, kind of like how I advertise for the barbecue place down in Virginia Highlands. But yeah, check out Spaces. I'll put the link in the show description of their website and who to contact and everything like that. But yeah, if you're looking for office space, definitely check them out, especially if you're in the Atlanta area. But they have other locations around the Metroplex. But talking about Georgia Tech, since I am probably, I must say, a stone's throw away, you can kind of say, or I just kind of take a couple of lefts and go down the street and cross the interstate, boom, I'm there. But yes, across the interstate at Bobby Dodd Stadium, they are hosting their spring game. Obviously, every major college program has a spring game. And but just to get into the details of it, it's on Friday night on April 20th, which is kind of interesting because it's the day before Georgia's spring game. I don't know if they worked it out that way or it's just kind of coincidence. I'm just going to go off coincidence right now. Maybe I can't afford to do that, but in my business. But still, I'm just kind of going to go off coincidence that, hey, they saw April 20th on the calendar and said, why not? But Georgia's G-Day is actually April 21st, just to put that out there. Also, too, when you enter in the stadium, it is a free entry, which usually all spring games pretty much are. Yeah, you're going to be pretty broke if you have to charge for your spring game. Also, too, you get a free bottle of water, or free bottle for water, because they do have like refill stations type things. Georgia has the same thing, but I don't know if Georgia Tech's copycatting off Georgia or they kind of just had the same ideas. But whatever. Having that stuff is actually pretty awesome, in my opinion, because it keeps you hydrated during those early September games and just keeps you hydrated even in the cold November games. But staying on track here. The way that I feel about this, I get why you would have it on a Friday night, because it seems like for some reason around here, like when Georgia State has their games on a Thursday. I know Georgia State usually does the spring game on a Thursday or Friday night. And I get it for that campus in particular because once Friday comes around, it is pretty much a ghost town there on campus. So Thursday is like the big heavy hitter night if you want to attract students to spend time at pretty much just like a fake football game, and they're all fake football games no matter where you go to, Georgia, Auburn, Clemson, wherever. But 680 The Fan kind of had an interesting take. Chuck Oliver talked about it yesterday on his show, and I agree with some of the things he said. I would probably just approach it in a little bit of a different way. I think that you shouldn't have it on a Friday night. I get why you're doing that, because campus is going to be probably dead on Saturday. So you want to get the students in there when you can. But if I was the PR department, I'd probably go a different route. And obviously you're going to take a big hit. But one of the things Georgia Tech needs right now is recruiting. And I would make this spring game all about recruiting and bringing out a big crowd. And I think this is probably easier said than done. The thing that brought out a big crowd at the Georgia game a couple years ago was having Ludacris there when it was Eason's freshman year, and everyone wanted to see Eason, and also too everyone wanted to, or the people that didn't want to see Eason wanted to see Ludacris. So that was a big steal by the University of Georgia and a big win. But it's kind of like, who wouldn't want to play? Like, who wouldn't want to have like a mini concert there at for a spring game? Because obviously there's a lot of musical artists that come from the city of Atlanta, and it's kind of just like, if you get a local artist who's made it big, then the kind of why not? I mean, I think a lot of people that don't root for Georgia Tech would be interested in checking out a free concert. I know you're not going to have like the Kendrick Lamar show like you did at the national championship, but yeah, free concert I think is a start. I think also you have to market to the culture of Georgia Tech if you want to attract Georgia Tech students. So I'm kind of thinking just oddballing off the top of my head that I think it'd be cool if after the game, to keep people in the stands, if you had like a big robot match type thing, kind of like what you see on the Discovery Channel, but I know that's a lot of logistics involved, but still, or some sort of rocket display. But I think it'd be cool if you could make Saturday, change it to Saturday, make it a Georgia Tech thing, and have your technology fairs on that day. Just promote the campus and just promote all the great things that Georgia Tech has to offer. I think that'll attract more people, because that'll also attract alumni. I would have a lot of your alumni stuff on the same day as a spring game, because I think just because where the culture is with Georgia Tech, it's kind of one of those things where honestly they're not really interested in football, but if they know that a football game's going on, they'll probably check it out. So I feel like the key for Georgia Tech is getting people on the campus. And once you're on the campus, then they'll probably want to check it out, especially because it's free, especially because you're having concert, especially because you're having Transformers fight at the end. I think that would be awesome. If Georgia Tech did invent Transformers, then have them at the end. But I feel like with all this logistical things going on, also too, you have to tell Paul Johnson, hey, keep a running clock going. Obviously, they run options, so that's probably not going to be a problem. But at the same time, I don't see them having a lot of big position battles for competition. Obviously, you have your quarterback position sewn up, and that's what people come out to a spring game to see is which quarterback looks better. But Georgia Tech doesn't have that problem, so yeah, you're gonna have to just bite it from a budget standpoint and from a PR just from a PR spending standpoint. You're going to be spending a lot than probably you want to put out there, but at the same time, I feel like it'll all be worth it, especially if you get a few commits on that day from 4-star kids that are on the fence, because obviously that's how. I know that was a lot, so I just want to just kind of end this show really quickly and saying thanks to David Manigo, thanks to Sean McEvoy for joining the show today. It was a great Football Friday. I almost knocked over my mic there. Great Football Friday that we put together today, and hope that you enjoyed as well. If you like what you heard, and you're my friend Carter listening. Carter, if you like what you heard, be sure to hit that like button because in this age of new media, the like button goes a long way. It goes further and faster than I think a lot of people think or realize. So definitely hit that like button. We appreciate the people that have been showing that feedback by hitting the like button. Definitely appreciate you guys there. But the fan show is through favoritefan.com, and I am pulling up the website right now to see what is out there that you guys can look at, because I know right now that you have the time to go check out favoritefan.com. And if you're interested in Atlanta United, we have an article up about the game that was played in Nashville and South Carolina. Also, too, just Atlanta United articles that we have. We have stuff about Tom Brady being the MVP and Alvin Kamara. So definitely check out those articles if that's something you're interested in, or just check out Fan's Favorite Fan just for the heck of it. I mean, because we got a heck of a score ticker up there. We have all tonight's NBA games because we got Boston at Detroit, Milwaukee at Toronto, Cleveland and Memphis, and Minnesota and Houston. So if you're curious about those games, we have those games on lock here at fansfavoritefan.com. If you want to check out the scores of those games, be sure to do that. I definitely did that. I was on fansfavoritefan.com during the college football season when my TV for some reason couldn't show the score, so I was definitely on fansfavoritefan.com to see some of the scores of the college football games. But it is very helpful tonight, especially in the NBA. So be sure to check out our score ticker on fansfavoritefan.com. I think that's probably enough of shouting out to the website. But definitely check it out, especially after you listen to this podcast. Go check it out right now. I mean, let's do this. Also, too, another way to get instant feedback to the fan show, because we'd like to know what you're hearing. We'd like to know what you're thinking, or if you want to talk about the subject, you have a question for David, go into FAMU, or you have a question for Sean, since he is just a wealth of knowledge, especially with what he's done at the quarterback position. Like I call him, he's the quarterback whisperer. So if you have questions for them, definitely put that in the comment section. Like I said, let's be adults, and let's not troll people, but let's be adults. And but still, the comment section is a really cool way to have interaction to the show. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am Alexander71004. So that's my Twitter handle. Tweet at me if you have a cool tweet. I'll definitely read it on air. I haven't got any of those yet, but I know they'll come soon. So if you want to be the first tweet to be read on air, just tweet at me and I will read it on air. But thanks again. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I hope you guys enjoy your Friday. Happy Friday. Happy fun Friday. But yeah, Fan Show 46 is out.